Determine the exact value for sine 195 degrees. We're going to need to find two angles that either add or subtract to 195 degrees that have reference angles of one of our special angles, like 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 45 degrees, or multiples of those. So I know that if this ends in 5, that 45 degrees, if I subtract 45, it would be a good starting point. So if I take 195 degrees minus 45 degrees, I have 150 degrees. I know that 150 degrees, if I was to picture where that is along here, it would have a reference angle of 30 degrees. So I'd be able to use 150 as an angle that I could get information and exact values from my angle. So I'm going to use, for 195 degrees, I'm going to say that it equals 45 plus 150 degrees, as that's a combination I can use where I can find the angles. So I used add, so I'm using the sum formulas. So I'm going to use the sum for sine. So I'm going to use the sine alpha plus beta formula. So I look on my formula sheet, sine alpha plus beta. I'm going to write down that formula. So that's the formula for it. And then I'm going to plug in 45 degrees for alpha. For beta, I'm going to plug in 150. Okay, so every time I see alpha, I write 45. Every time I see beta, I'm going to write 150 degrees. Okay, so I've got my angles plugged in. Now I'm going to evaluate what this would equal. Okay, so this is again sine 195 here. Sine 45 is in quadrant 1, the angle 45, so everything's positive there, and we know that that's going to be root 2 over 2 on our triangle. Sine 150, we have to think of the quadrant. 150 is quadrant 2. Sine in quadrant 2 is positive. Oh, I just realized this should be cosine here, guys. Sorry. Looking at this part here all of a sudden. So cos is negative. Okay, 150, we said we already know 150 has a reference angle of 30 degrees. So I'm going to use my triangle here. Okay, so for 30 degrees, I'm going to use, that's pi by 6. So we're doing cos is root 3 over 2. So it's negative root 3 over 2. Plus cos 45 is root 2 over 2. Sine of 150. So again, sine is this is quadrant 2, so sine is positive in quadrant 2. So reference angle of 30, we're going to have opposite of hypotenuse, so we get positive 1/2. Now I'm going to evaluate. Root 2 times negative root 3, root 2 times 1, and then this is over 4. I already have a common denominator, so we're just going to put this together. Negative root 6 plus root 2. You can write this as root 2 minus root 6. That's fine as well. So there's your exact value.